Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is a well-known phrase in the United States Declaration of Independence. The phrase gives 3 examples of the unalienable rights which the Declaration says has been given to all human beings by the Creator, and for which governments are created to protect. Origin and phrasing. The United States Declaration of Independence was drafted by Thomas Jefferson, edited by the Committee of Five, then further edited and adopted by the Committee of the Whole of the Second Continental Congress on July 4, 1776. The second section of text in the Declaration contains the phrase, "Jefferson's original rough draft is on exhibit in the Library of Congress." This version was used by Julian Boyd to create a transcript of Jefferson's draft, which reads, "We hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable, that all men are created equal and independent, that from that equal creation they derive rights inherent and inalienable, among which of the preservation of life, and liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." The Committee of Five edited Jefferson's draft. The version survived further edits by the whole Congress intact, and reads, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." A number of possible sources or inspirations for Jefferson's use of the phrase in the Declaration of Independence have been identified, although scholars debate the extent to which any one of them actually influenced Jefferson. Jefferson declared himself an Epicurean during his lifetime. This is a philosophical doctrine that teaches the pursuit of happiness and proposes autarky, which translates as self-rule, self-sufficiency or freedom. The greatest disagreement comes between those who suggest the phrase was drawn from John Locke and those who identify some other source. Locke and Root's hypothesis. In 1689, Locke argued in his 2 treatises of government that political society existed for the sake of protecting property, which he defined as a person's life, liberty, and estate. In a letter concerning toleration, he wrote that the magistrate's power was limited to preserving a person's civil interest, which he described as life, liberty, health, and indolency of body, and the possession of outward things. He declared in his essay concerning human understanding that the highest perfection of intellectual nature lies in a careful and constant pursuit of true and solid happiness. According to those scholars who saw the root of Jefferson's thought in Locke's doctrine, Jefferson replaced estate with the pursuit of happiness, although this does not mean that Jefferson meant the pursuit of happiness to refer primarily or exclusively to property. Under such an assumption, the Declaration of Independence would declare that government existed primarily for the reasons Locke gave, and some have extended that line of thinking to support a conception of limited government. Virginia Declaration of Rights. The first and second article of the Virginia Declaration of Rights, adopted unanimously by the Virginia Convention of Delegates on June 12, 1776 and written by George Mason, speaks of happiness in the context of recognizably Lockean rights and is paradigmatic of the way in which the fundamental natural rights of mankind were expressed at the time, that all men are by nature equally free and independent and have certain inherent rights, of which, when they enter into a state of society, they cannot by any compact deprive or divest the posterity, namely, the enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property, and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. Benjamin Franklin was in agreement with Thomas Jefferson in downplaying protection of property as a goal of government. It is noted that Franklin found property to be a creature of society, and thus, he believed that it should be taxed as a way to finance civil society. Alternative hypotheses. In 1628, Sir Edward Coke wrote in the first part of the Institutes of the Laws of England, his commentary on Thomas de Littleton, that it is commonly said that three things be favoured in law: life, liberty, doer. At common law, doer was closely guarded as a means by which the widow and orphan of a deceased landowner could keep the real property. Gary Wills has argued that Jefferson did not take the phrase from Locke, and that it was indeed meant to be a standard by which governments should be judged. Wills suggests Adam Ferguson as a good guide to what Jefferson had in mind. If, in reality, courage and a heart devoted to the good of mankind are the constituents of human felicity, the kindness which is done infers a happiness in the person from whom it proceeds, not in him on whom it is bestowed, and the greatest good which men possessed of fortitude and generosity can procure to the fellow creatures is a participation of this happy character. If this be the good of the individual, it is likewise that of mankind, and virtue no longer imposes a task by which we are obliged to bestow upon others that good from which we ourselves refrain, but supposes, in the highest degree, as possessed by ourselves, that state of felicity which we are required to promote in the world. The 17th-century cleric and philosopher Richard Cumberland read that promoting the well-being of our fellow humans is essential to the pursuit of our own happiness. Locke never associated natural rights with happiness, but his philosophical opponent Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz made such an association in the introduction to his Codex Iuris Gentium. William Wollaston's The Religion of Nature Delineated describes the truest definition of natural religion as being the pursuit of happiness by the practice of reason and truth. An English translation of Jean-Jacques Burlamaquy's Principles of Natural and Politic Law, prepared in 1763, extolled the noble pursuit of true and solid happiness. In the opening chapter discussing natural rights, historian Jack Rackover posits Burlamaquy as the inspiration for Jefferson's phrase, comparable mottos worldwide. Other tripartite mottos include Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité in France, Einigkeit und Recht und Freiheit in Germany, and Peace, Order, and Good Government in Canada. It is also similar to a line in the Canadian Charter of Rights: life, liberty, security of the person. The phrase can also be found in Chapter 3, Article 13 of the 1947 Constitution of Japan, and in President Ho Chi Minh's 1945 Declaration of Independence of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. An alternative phrase, life, liberty, and property, is found in the Declaration of Colonial Rights, a resolution of the First Continental Congress. The Fifth Amendment and 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution declare that governments cannot deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Also, Article 3 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights reads, "Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person."